Merry Christmas, everyone. Today I would like to share with you a trade I made on my journey to 100K, where I try to take $1,000 to $100,000 as fast as possible via day trading. Now, I'm relatively new to day trading, so this is kind of a learning process as I make a lot of mistakes and grow and learn and hopefully connect with some of you along the way who are trying to accomplish the same thing. My results aren't typical, at least I don't think so. I see a lot of people losing money. I've won a little bit of money here and there, and this is not advice, but needless to say, here's the trade that I made. This was on Christmas Eve. There was I haven't put out a bunch of videos. I haven't put out videos recently because there are some no trade days. Christmas is a no trade day. There was a day where I didn't trade because I just didn't see very many setups in the marketplace. But I did trade on Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve can be a little bit volatile, and the spreads can be large because there's maybe not a lot of liquidity in the marketplace, meaning there's not a lot of people buying and selling. There's not a lot of money involved, and so spreads can be a little wider. And we do see a little bit of that here in this trade. So we're going to start off with this really quickly with this trade that happened here, and I'll explain in a second why this is going to be a quick explanation. But we're going to focus right here in this section right here. The stock was RPTX. And we did have, I would love to just leave that up. Can we just leave that up? We can't leave that up. All right, that's fine. Well, we did have some news on this stock right here on New Year's Eve morning. So this was our catalyst right here. It says, right there says Repare Therapeutics to receive up to $30 million in total consideration, including a $25 million upfront payment. RPTX. Now, as you can see, kind of up above in this area on this date, they had a ton of news on Christmas Eve. It's like they wanted the stock to rally, and that can happen sometimes, and I'm okay with that, to be honest with you. So we had quite a bit of news. I caught this really early in the morning. This was 4 a.m. when the news popped. I really wanted, for those of you who have followed on a couple of my videos, I really did not want to trade anything that would be like in this area, which is kind of flat and on the back side of the moves. So I was dedicated on New Year's Eve to make sure that I traded within the first 10 minutes of the market being open at 4 a.m. My time anyway. And so I did just that. So as the stock began to rally here up this way, I was waiting for a little bit of a pullback, which it did down in this way. And then really as soon as this candle right here moved above this candle right here, I was interested in buying. I should have bought right there. That section there would have been, I would have gotten at about 245 and probably rode this thing up to when I sold at 262. I would have gotten in 10 seconds sooner, but I wanted a little bit more confidence before I went in on this trade. So what I ended up doing, zoom in just a little bit here. What I ended up doing here was waiting for the next green candle. So we have this red candle right here, and then we had this doji candle right here, and then this would have been a good opportunity to buy right in there. But I ended up waiting for when a candle went above this section right here. So I got in right here. This actually happened at 252. So I got in at 254. That's a really good move for me. As soon as the candle opened right around right around the high of the previous candle, I got in. So I got in at 254, technically maybe 2 cents late, but that's fine. And then I could have, with this trade here, I couldn't get out. So I waited until I could hit my 252 target. And so I got it on this candle at 254. It only reached, the high of this candle was 255, but it was still showing green. This candle popped. It started out and it started to rip higher. And so I waited on this one. This one's high was 261. We still weren't at our target yet. And then this candle here went to 262. I took 100 of the shares off the table, and then I waited to see if it was going to go a little bit higher. And when I noticed it wasn't going to go higher, I took the other 200 shares off of the table for a profit of $15. Now, I was very happy with a $15 profit on this $1,000 account. I think my largest one was 50, and then the other one was 30 or 20. And either way, I was very happy with being green on a volatile day. However, after I made this trade, I went ahead and decided I was going to switch to my Roth account and trade. And I went to hit the button to switch, and I noticed that I was already on my Roth account. So I made the $15 on my Roth account, not on the challenge account, the one I'm trying to take from 1,000 to 100,000. So that's really unfortunate. But I switched to my Roth account, and I made another trade. And this trade switched to my primary account right here, designated. This trade ended up working out really, really well for me. So we're green $30 on this trade, which is awesome. The stock was what was it called? TNMG, which I will trade. I'll get to now. TNMG. We'll switch this to red. And this also had some news. So it had some news here, right there. TNL granted continued listing by NASDAQ hearings panel subject to meeting the $1 bid price rule on or before January 7th. So they were able to, be back on the stock, continue listing on the stock market, which always creates a little bit of buzz. And whether it's good news or bad news, people just, it does create some opportunities to make some money. And there was a little bit more news throughout the day as well on this company, but that was primarily it. So when that news hit at whatever time it was, 4:20, this stock started to rally, and you can see, it went for quite some time. Now, I wasn't paying attention to this stock when it initially had the alert, because I was trading on what I thought was in my taxable account. So I was really focused on being green there, and I was locked in that other trade. So I wasn't really focused on this one too much. But so I did get an alert for the stock. Somewhere in this range right here, somewhere in here is where I got this alert. So I started focusing on this stock right in here, and I was wanting it to show a pullback. Now here's the deal. I was waiting for a red candle so that this stock could kind of dive down a little bit like it did right here. This is actually a good example of like when I got in at a good time. And I was going to wait for a green candle to rise above that red candle. And I'll explain this part in just a second. But I had some missed opportunities right here that because I was really waiting I wanted to see a red candle close followed by a green candle upside. I wanted to see a red candle, a full 1 minute red candle before I decided to go in. So I knew I wasn't trading into weakness, and I could trade into strength on a green candle going up. And that is, in that, I actually missed a couple of opportunities, specifically right here. So with this candle, the high of this candle was, what was this? Oh, so this is 321 right here, where my cursor is right here. And I can draw this line. So this is 321 right here. So this candle, it closed at 321. This next candle right here, Control Z. I kind of like these new tools right here. It opened right here above the close, so it opened right here in this section right here, and then it actually dove down, which made the candle red, and then it jumped back up to what would be this red line right here, which is technically a pullback. So I could have entered in and should have probably entered in right here in this moment, which would have been about 321. And then if we just look and see how far this rose, 321, this candle went up to 344. I would have probably got out at my 10 cents and got out of there. But if I would have stayed in, that one candle would have been a 20-cent gain. And if I would have stayed in for the next candle, you're talking about, a 30-cent gain. All of a sudden you can see how this thing can get out of hand in a positive way rather quickly. However, I waited for this downturn right here. And then I said, okay, once this green candle gets above this line right here, I'm a buyer. And so what happened with this green candle right there is that it opened, it actually rose, started to rise up, and as soon as it rose up past this line, I was a buyer. And eventually it came back down and closed lower than when I got in, but it wasn't at my stop, so I stayed in. And so I got in at 320, and actually that's not what happened with this. what happened with this was I actually tried to get out of this trade right here. So you can build a trend line. I tried to get out right there. So I bought it at 320. It went up to what was the high? The high was 332. So it went up 12 cents. I actually tried to get out at the top of this candle, but this is a good opportunity for me to talk about buying on the ask and selling on the ask, and buying on the bid and selling on the bid. This might be a little bit boring, so bear with me, but over here on this side right here, right there, oops, 1 second, Control Z, right here is where I'm looking at when I'm buying and selling stock. So actually, once I get in, so once I'm in on a stock, I'm pretty much staring at this ask price right here, and then there's a bid price right here as well. The ask is the lowest price sellers are willing to accept. So a seller has set the price to $2.86, and that's like, I got to go in and buy it at that price. I can also buy these ones down here. I can buy all of these as well. But typically I'm getting in at the 286 at the basic level. And then the bid is the highest price buyers are willing to pay. And so when I go to sell my stock, I can choose to sell it at the ask price, or I can choose to sell it at the bid price right here. If I choose to sell it on the ask, which is what I did right here, I tried to sell it right here on the ask. If all of a sudden the stock price drops down, well, my order is just going to be sitting there because no one's going to buy my shares at a price higher than the stock currently sits. So that happened here. I tried to sell on the ask, and the stock dropped, which is reminiscent of this like upper wick right here, this little guy right here. And so I canceled my order, which is right here. I canceled my order and then waited for this next candle to pop. And then once I saw that it was at, I don't know, $3.30, I tried to sell again on the ask. I couldn't get it. So on this candle, like already now I'm risking it. Like I would have already been out with profit. I've risked losing money by not selling on the bid in this scenario. I looked at the spread, which is the difference between, your ask price and your bid price. So right now, because there's not really anything going on, that's a spread of 16 cents. That's really not great. But the spread was like a penny or 2 pennies. So when I saw this candle reach, $3.34, which was the high of this candle, by the way, I submitted to sell on the bid. And when I sold on the bid, which is here on this left-hand side, my order filled immediately. And so it's a good lesson for new traders. It's there's a lot of options. Like up here are my options. These are all my buy and sell options, right? We have buy bid, buy market, buy ask, sell bid, sell market, sell ask. I don't even use market orders, which we can talk about later. I always buy on the ask, and up until recently I've always been selling on the ask because I always get a little bit more money that way. But in this scenario where I'm trying to get out as fast as possible, if you want to get out immediately, you've got to sell on the bid, and you got to be okay with losing a penny or a couple pennies, depending on the spread. So that's kind of a good lesson on buying on asks and bids, and why it's important to get in on or buy on the ask if you want in right away, and to sell on the bid if you want out right away. Anyway, yeah, so we got in at $3.20. We rode it to $3.34. I'm very happy with 14 cents on that. We profited $30, which brings the taxable account up to $1,100. So we've made 3 trades, 3 days of trading. We've had 100% accuracy, 100% win rate, and we're up 10% on our initial startup money, which is absolutely fabulous. Again, I expect some losing to happen. I did take a couple of weird trades where I was learning a couple things. So like 10 shares here, 10 shares there, buy and sell stuff as I'm trying to like learn a few different kind of things. And so there was like some some like even trades there where I broke even doing some testing, but I wasn't really counting those as real trades. So there was some odd stuff in there, but real trades I made, we've made 3. We're up $100. We're going to take a loss here, probably a substantial one at some point in here. We can't keep this rally going, but I'm very happy to be sitting at $1,100, an increase of 10% on my money in under a week, and it's interesting because you could, if you got really good at this, you could continue to grow it to $100,000 or whatever it may be. Or if you just needed like an extra $100 of shopping, for like groceries, and you weren't too worried about, having $1,000 in an account that you don't really have access to, and you were really good at getting out of your stop loss, so you didn't lose that money. I mean, you could have an extra $100 a week or $50 a week to do some grocery shopping. So I find it very, very interesting that you don't have to take this thing to $1 million. You could just chip away and have a little extra cash throughout the month or throughout the week, as long as you understood this and didn't risk too much money and knew when to get out. So anyway, I hope you guys all had a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. I'm definitely looking forward to next week's trading. Hopefully we can get this thing to go a little bit further, and maybe I can stay in a little longer and make 30, 40, 50 cents, $1 even a share on some of these things. So Merry Christmas. Have a great New Year. We'll see you next week.